We from SMA Catholic Regina Pacis Bajawa got the government.
Okay. And
We are opposition.
seminary, Mr. Obama is the opposition. I'm sorry, I just can't help myself. It's just so like Obama. And okay, so the motion that is given by the that is prepared by the judges. Sorry. 10 menit dulu baru kasih mosinya. Okay, so you guys are invited to go back to your teams, and then after 10 minutes, we will prepare the motion for you. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Now we would like to invite debating team from seminary and also from SMA Regina Pacis to your designated benches. Okay. SMA Seminary for the opposition bench. SMA Regina Pacis Bajawa to the government bench. Okay, a motion has been prepared by the... Oh, okay. Take your time to take anything that you need before we start. Sudah? Okay. Before we start, we would like both teams to introduce your team members, please. From the government team, could you please introduce your team?
For me, I'm Priska Natalia Milo as the Prime Minister.
I am Talia as the Deputy of Prime Minister.
And I am Michelle as the Government Whip. That is all from us. Thank you.
Thank you, government team. Now we move forward to the opposition team. Could you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. We from the opposition team. I am Sam Ama as the leader of opposition, Peter Demong as the deputy leader of opposition, and Marco Rera as the opposition whip. It's a great moment to participate in this debate competition, so we will do our best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Big applause for them. And of course, for the final round, we will have a surprise motion, yeah, that is prepared by the judges, and I would like to read it. And then later on, we'll give this to both teams as your guide. You will be given 45 minutes for the preparation. And you have laptop already in front of you and the papers that you can use to write down your arguments. The motion is, this House believes that corruption can be abolished by death penalty. Once again, the motion is, this House believes that corruption can be abolished by death penalty. So the government, you will be building your case for this motion, and opposition team, of course, you will be building your arguments against this motion. I will give this to you. I'll give you some time to take a deep breath before starting the time. Okay, so time for building the case starts now. Okay, so time's up for the preparation. I think both teams are already gearing up, yeah, for the competition. So we will go straight away to the debate competition. Are you guys ready? Government team, are you ready? Government team, are you ready? Opposition team, are you? Thank you. So let us start first of all by giving the opportunity for the government team, in this case Ms. Natal Raga as the Prime Minister. Yeah, and actually I don't have the motion here, but I think the motion says this House believes that
Corruption can be abolished by death penalty.
corruption can be established by death penalty. So, without further ado, Prime Minister Ms. Natal Raga, could you please define your motion and also give your opening arguments? Time is yours. Silakan.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, the honorable adjudicators, timekeeper, moderator, and all the participants, and also our beloved partner from the opposition team. So our motion today is this House belief that corruption can be abolished by death penalty. And we from the government team totally agree about this motion. So ladies and gentlemen, beside this motion, we take the three keywords or three definitions. The first is about corruption. Corruption is an activity that have the purpose to abuse or use of the country's money, ladies and gentlemen. And also the abolish is about disappearance of the corruption itself. And the third is about death penalty. It's about the punishment for the corruptor, which means about the making final or the end for the corruptor life. So ladies and gentlemen, to limit our conversation today, we take the parameter in our own country, Indonesia. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to see in the current status quo that there are a lot of corruptors use the money of our country to their own personality. So that in here we have to talk about how can we be faced with this condition. And to make it clear, ladies and gentlemen, as
please.
No, thank you. To make it clear, ladies and gentlemen, the government team of this House wins by proving that pursue that corruption can be abolished by the death penalty, while the con side of this House wins by proving that
Corruption,
corruption.
please.
No, thank you. Corruption cannot be abolished by death penalty, but can be abolished by the other ways. So, ladies and gentlemen, we from the government team have 2 points of argument.
Corruption, please.
Yes, please.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to know Denmark is the first rank of the lowest corruption in that country, ladies and gentlemen. The lowest corruption cases in that country, ladies, and in the world, ladies and gentlemen. And you have to know that Denmark not implemented the death penalty for the corruptor, and they have another solution that more effective than this policy. Thank you.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in here I would like to say that the opposition team didn't give what is the solution itself, ladies and gentlemen. So in here, I would like to continue, ladies and gentlemen. And in here, ladies and gentlemen, we from the government team have 2 points of arguments. The first is corruption cases can be eliminated by implementing the death penalty. And the second is the losses generated by corruption are very large, resulting in people's misery. No, thank you. So the first argument will be explained by Natal as the Prime Minister, and the second argument will be explained by Talia as the Deputy of Prime Minister, and our arguments will be concluded by Michelle as the government.
Corruption, please.
Okay,
Please.
slowly. Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, you have mentioned before, if this policy is implemented in our country, it can abolish the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. But how about China that implemented this death penalty to the corruptor in 2013, but the result shows that in 2019, there is an increase of the corruption cases in that country by 90%, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, in here again and again, we have to see that, ladies and gentlemen, our parameter in here is about Indonesia. But ladies and gentlemen, because of the question from the opposition team, so I would like to answer that, ladies and gentlemen, even though the increasing of the corruption cases, because even that the China have implemented the death penalty itself, or the death penalty policy, but the number or the amount of the corruption still increased, ladies and gentlemen. But we have to see, ladies and gentlemen, in Indonesia, we have to make the comparison in Indonesia and the China itself, ladies and gentlemen.
Please.
That no, thank you. That they have to police the death penalty so that the corruptor didn't big that because of the death penalty itself. But ladies and gentlemen, in Indonesia, no, thank you. I'm Spain. Please give me the time for explain. So that, ladies and gentlemen, we have to see in the real situation that in Indonesia, that the death penalty don't being implemented at all, ladies and gentlemen. But there are a lot of cases of the corruption on our country, ladies and gentlemen. So I would like to continue, ladies and gentlemen.
Interruption, please.
No, thank you. As we know, the purpose of death penalty is to kill someone or the disappearance or the soul of the corruption itself. So that, ladies and gentlemen, the performer of the corruption, or we call it corruption, will be done. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. But you need to know that Indonesia right now have already implemented the regulation that will make the death penalty for the corruptor. But even though the regulation implement in Indonesia, the case of corruption in Indonesia, even in 2023, increased, ladies and gentlemen, from the case around 578.9.
Okay, so thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, in here again and again, I want to state and emphasize, ladies and gentlemen, that in Indonesia, the death penalty policy is not being implemented, ladies and gentlemen. As we know, ladies and gentlemen, in the real situation, that the number of and the amount of the corruptor itself being increased, ladies and gentlemen. So I would like to continue. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to focus that how can the death penalty can abolish the corruption. The basis of our point is about corruption is being performed by the corruptor. So that when there is the existence of corruptor, which means also there is the existence of the corruption itself. So that, ladies and gentlemen, if we do the penalty for all corruptor,
interruption, please.
no, thank you. For the all corruptor, of course, there is no performer of the corruption, so that it totally can abolish the corruption cases. And ladies and gentlemen, why we agree in here that the corruption can be abolished by the death penalty?
Me, lady?
No, thank you. Because repressive way and the preventive way is the corruption act, ladies and gentlemen. And we have to see that, ladies and gentlemen, death penalty can act as a tool to break the patterns of corruption, provide recovery, provide a different effect, and also at the same time, as education. No, thank you. As education, so that crimes are not repeated or imitated, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to see about how can the people aware of care about the punishment to the death policy itself.
Please.
Yes, please.
So you have to know, lady, that in 2021, Harry Hidayah, a corruptor from Indonesia, is accused by this policy, this death penalty, but the cases of corruption in Indonesia is still increased.
Okay, so thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, what we have to see in here, again and again, I want to emphasize that without the performer, of course, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, without the performer, of course, it can make the corruption is being performed by the corruptor. So that when there is the existence of corruptor, which means also there is the existence of the corruption itself. So that if you do the death penalty for the all corruption, of course, there is no performer of the corruption, so that it totally can abolish the corruption cases. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to see that when we take away lives of the corruptor itself, which means that we take away of the existence of the corruption cases itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also, what we have to see that this punishment can make the performer of the corruptor being way to do it, ladies and gentlemen. So that at the end of the day, why we from the government team totally agree about this motion, that this house believes that corruption can be abolished by death penalty, because as we know, the performer of the corruption is the corruptor, and when we do the penalty of the corruptor itself, which means it can help to reduce the corruption cases itself. So that is all my argument. Thank you.
So thank you very much. That was Ms. Natal Raga as the Prime Minister from the government side, and the time spent was 7 minutes and 6 seconds. Now it's the opportunity for the opposition team, in this case, the leader of opposition, Mr. Sam Ama. It is your turn to rebut the definition of the motion presented by the government team. Time is yours.
Okay, so good afternoon, judges, ladies and gentlemen, all of the participants who are attending here, and very good afternoon, our partner from the government team. As the leader of opposition, I'd like to say that our group totally disagree with our motion today, which says this House believes that corruption can be abolished by death penalty. So we from the opposition team have several argument and fact that will prove you that our position today is right. But before I go to my argument, let me tell you what is error with the Prime Minister. So actually the Prime Minister contended that the corruption can be abolished by the death penalty. And the Prime Minister contended that Indonesia don't apply the regulation that shows death penalty give death penalty for the corruptors, ladies and gentlemen. But actually the point that come from the side of government is unbelievable. I will tell you the data. I will tell you the regulation that Indonesia create to give a death penalty for the corruptors in Indonesia. And even this regulation have already applied in Indonesia, the number of cases
PI,
of corruption.
please.
I'm sorry, young lady. Let me finish this part, okay? Even though this policy, even though this regulation have already applied in Indonesia, the number of cases of corruption still increase, ladies and gentlemen. Why? So I will go to that point.
POI, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you say that I'm sorry. The penalty that is already implemented in Indonesia, but you have to know that that is no the
Okay,
I'm sorry,
young lady. Young lady. I will go to that point that you meant in here. That actually in Indonesia we have already made a regulation, have already made a rule for the corruptors to when they do these bad things, they will get death penalty. So actually, even that this regulation have already applied in Indonesia, the number of case of corruption in Indonesia still increase. So let me tell you something. In 2023, the number of case of corruption is around 578, ladies and gentlemen. And actually, this number of case of corruption in Indonesia in 2023 increased from the last year. And it clearly shows that actually this regulation, this punishment that I mean in here as the death penalty is useless, ladies and gentlemen. So let me tell you something. You need to know that Indonesia right now have already made a regulation, like as I cited from the regulation number 20 of 2021, the concerning of amendments to law number of 31st of 1919, concerning the eradication of corruption crimes. And it clearly shows that actually Indonesia have already made a regulation for this for the corruptor, ladies and gentlemen. But you need to know why this regulation is useless, because actually, like as cited from the regulation number 18 of 2022, the punishment of death penalty is only give for the corruptor that corrupt fund
POI,
to
please.
handle the emergency situation. Yes, please.
Okay, you say that the case of corruption is increased, but ladies and gentlemen, because the increase of the case of corruption itself, then the death penalty it have to implementation in the right way.
Young lady, I have already get your point, but maybe the Deputy Prime Minister don't listen carefully to my opinion that I've mentioned to them. They contended that actually because of the increase of the number of cases of corruption in Indonesia, because of that the Indonesia government should have to implement this regulation. But actually Indonesia from the past have already implemented this regulation, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, POI, please.
I'm sorry, let me finish this part, okay? And why actually this policy, this regulation cannot reduce the number of corruption that I have mentioned to you. Actually, this the death penalty as the punishment only for the corruptor that corrupt the fund for to handle the emergency situation, ladies and gentlemen. And how about another kind of corruption? Are the actually so the government cannot make a it clearly shows that actually the regulation that have already implemented in Indonesia that give a death penalty as a punishment for the corruptor is useless, ladies and gentlemen. So
PI,
go back
please.
to my opinion. I'm sorry, young lady. Let me finish this part, okay? So let me tell you something that actually several countries in the world like South Sudan, Syria, Somalia, Venezuela, and Yemen actually implement this policy, implement the regulation to give death penalty for the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. And why the number of cases in those countries still increase? Because the case is same like Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen.
On this
The
point,
case-
please.
Yes, please.
Okay, you already compared Indonesia and the other country. But as we know, Indonesia is a developing country and the other country we said before is a developed country. So you cannot compare Indonesia with those countries. So what do you think about that?
Why I compared Indonesia with those countries? Because actually Indonesia have a same case with those countries, have a same background, have a same situation with those countries, ladies and gentlemen. We know that in those countries, they implement the regulation, implement the policy to reduce the number of corruption by make a death penalty as a punishment for the corruptors. But even that this policy have already implemented in those countries and also in Indonesia, we know that the number of cases of corruption even in 2023 increased, ladies and gentlemen. And it shows that actually death penalty as a punishment for the corruption is useless. Okay, so go back to my opinion. And let me tell you another case in Indonesia that actually even that this regulation have already implemented in Indonesia, but we know already that actually the government cannot handle this problem because they are failed to make a good regulation, failed to make a policy that can reduce the number of corruption, not by use death penalty as a punishment. So like one case that one person. His name is Hiridaya, and actually he is Heru Hidayah as a corruptors, but even that he already make corruptors and these problems, but actually the judge not accept the requirement from the prosecutors. Why? Because actually there is no a strong regulation, there is no strong rule, police that created by the government to handle this problem. And we know already in Indonesia the number of corruption still increase, and it clearly shows that actually the corruption can be cannot be abolished by the death penalty. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is Mr. Sama as the leader of the opposition team. And now, time spent for that is 7 minutes and 17 seconds. And now the opportunity is given to the Deputy Prime Minister from the government team, Ms. Talianiki. It's your time to rebut the claim by the opposition team. Time is yours.
Okay, so I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the honorable adjudicator, timekeeper, the moderator, and all the participants, and also our beloved friend from the opposition team. With our motion today, this House believes that the corruption can be abolished by death penalty. We from the government team totally agree about this motion. But before I deliver my speech, I will give the opposition team some response or rebuttal. They say the death penalty already have implemented in Indonesia. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to know that there is no real example about the death penalty in Indonesia. Because of why, ladies and gentlemen? Because there is no real case when the corruptor get the death penalty. Ladies and gentlemen.
Interruption, please.
No, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we cannot compare our developed country with the progress country.
Please.
No, thank you. Because of what, ladies and gentlemen? Because the progress country people, their life is guaranteed, not like us, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, with the corruptors, yes, please. Yes, please.
So you have contended before that is no regulation of the death penalty to the corruptor in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. But in the facts, in 2021, Heru Hidayah got this death penalty because he is one of the corruptor in Indonesia. So it is contradict with your argument and reality in our country. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, they say at the first, they say this rules is not implemented. But ladies and gentlemen, then they say this rule is implemented. Okay, I will continue with my argument. Ladies and gentlemen, when the corruptors do the corruption and don't get the death penalty, then where is the justice for the people? In here, I'll explain to all of you about the losses when the corruptor do the corruption. At the first is, corruption is an act that is very loses. Corruption slows down the economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, when in here, they are the roots from the corruption is the root, the corruptor is the root from the unprivileged, from our country. They take a lot of money from country to make them become rich. And
Your
what
English.
yes please?
You do not have to explain to us what Corruption Act is. The fact is Indonesia have applied the policy to prevent this problem, and the fact is nothing happened.
Okay, I got your point, but ladies and gentlemen, according to data from KPK to 28 December 2020, there are 1,310 corruption case in Indonesia. That mean that the real implementation of the death penalty is not already happened. That is why the death penalty is have to implement it to Indonesia because of violence and to decrease the case of the corruption. I will continue with my argument. Ladies and gentlemen, the people will get misery because the money they pay to the government is used by the government for their life, not for the people themselves, not for develop the infrastructure of Indonesia. And we can take the real example from the viral case that happened in Indonesia, when in the Tangerang there is many of the breaks road, and then when this case viral, then the government is.
Interruption, please.
Yes, please.
So, young lady, this policy is implemented in the other country, but the result is nothing, ladies. So you have to know, in China, there is regulation to death penalty to the corruptor, ladies and gentlemen, in 2013, but the corruption cases in China is still increased in 2019 by 90%, not 19, but 90%. There's a hike of number, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, I get your point, but ladies and gentlemen, they are compare Indonesia with the China. But ladies and gentlemen, in the China case of the corruption is it's a little case, but in Indonesia it is a many case. Because of that, to abolish the case of corruption in Indonesia, we have to implement the death penalty. Okay, I will continue with my argument. Ladies and gentlemen, when there is no penalty that is proper for the corruptor, then the case of corruption. No, thank you. Then the case of corruption will rampant. And the welfare of the people is questionable. Ladies and gentlemen, the increase, what I want to say next is the increase of the unprivileged of the people when this case of corruption is not get the right penalty. Ladies and gentlemen, we can take an example in our beloved country, Indonesia. We are the progress country, and in this progress country, BPS recorded the unprivileged of Indonesia is 26.36 million in September 2022. And what is the conclusion, ladies and gentlemen? The corruption will make people misery. And ladies and gentlemen, because of the case of corruption in here, the people will make the poor sewer make the poor people suffer even more with the high cost of public service and health for the education due to corruption. We also not be able to get the poor out of the trap of corruption. Okay, and at the end of the day, we from the government team strongly, totally disagree about this, agree about this motion that say this house believes that corruption can be abolished by the death penalty. That's all from me, and thank you.
Thank you. So that was Ms. Talia Niki, Deputy Prime Minister from the government house. And the time span was 7 minutes and 23 seconds. The next one is Mr. Patrick Demung, Deputy Leader of the Opposition team. This is now your turn to review the claim by DPM, Deputy Prime Minister, and also re-establish your position as the opposition. Time is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Totally disagree with our motion today that says this House believes that corruption can be abolished by the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. But we believe that it cannot abolish this corruption, ladies and gentlemen. But before going any further, I'd like to rebut some points from the government team. So the Deputy Prime Minister has contended before there is no policy or regulation that conclude about the prevent corruption by the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. But you have to know, in the regulation number 20 of 2001, ladies and gentlemen, concerning about the corruption cases that will get the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. This proves that Indonesia has implemented this regulation, ladies and gentlemen, but that is not the effective way to prevent these cases, ladies and gentlemen. Then they talk about increasing of the corruption. Maybe they failed to know that there is regulation in Indonesia. There is regulation to prevent that corruption cases in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen, and they just talk about increase of the corruption.
PI, please.
That's clearly shows, ladies and gentlemen, they are support our position today. Yes, please.
Okay, so you said it seems like the opposition team didn't get our point, because we already said before that there are rules about the corruption itself, but it haven't implemented on Indonesia. That is why the corruption cases in Indonesia keep increasing, because they haven't implemented.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this proves that this death penalty is not effective to abolish this corruption, ladies and gentlemen. Even though there is regulation about this death penalty of the corruptor in Indonesia, but there is still increasing of these corruption cases in Indonesia. Because of that, ladies and gentlemen, I will talk to you how bad is the corruption in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Corruption in the 20th century as the global economy expanded, no thank you, significantly during the 20th century, the level of corruption also increased, and it is difficult to estimate the magnitude and also the level of the corruption global, because this activity is carried out in secret. No, thank you. The World Bank estimates international bribes exceed about $1.5 trillion US dollar, ladies and gentlemen, or almost 2% of the GDP and 10 times more than total global aid, ladies and gentlemen. And I will tell you about the death penalty, the history of the death penalty in our world, ladies and gentlemen. So the death penalty is already exist in the 18th century in our world. Yes, please.
Okay, so the opposition team keep talking about the other country, but so in here I must remind you that our primary is in Indonesia.
Okay,
so
I got your point, young lady.
I
got your point. Yes, we talk about in Indonesia, and we have to make comparison with that another country, so we can know this policy is effective or not, ladies and gentlemen. I will continue to my argument if you satisfied with my answer, ladies and gentlemen. And this death penalty is implemented in our world in 18th century before Christ in Babylonia, that made by the King Hermotid. This punishment is given to 25 kinds of the crime, include corruption in that kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. And in 20th century, there are almost all countries in the world implement this policy, this regulation to prevent the corruption in that country. But the reality, the corruption cases in those countries is still increased, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe if this policy, if this regulation is implemented to prevent that corruption, that is useless, ladies and gentlemen. And then I will talk about the death penalty is not the effective to prevent the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. So if you just punish one man, it cannot be it cannot be the example for all the corruptor in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Because of what? Because even though there is a punishment, the death penalty to 1%, but the corruption cases in the world is still increased, ladies and gentlemen. In 2021, Heru Hidayat, a corruptor in Indonesia, got the death penalty. But strangely, ladies and gentlemen, the corruption in Indonesia is not decreased, but it increased instead. As cited in dataindonesia.id, there are 579 cases of corruption in Indonesia in 2023. It increases by 8%, 8.63% than previous year, which are 533 cases, ladies and gentlemen. This proves that this regulation, if implemented, it is useless, ladies and gentlemen, as my leader of opposition has said.
PI, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you said that this rules is useless. It means that the opposition's team are saving one person while the other person is dying because of this corruption itself. So what do you think about that?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to know why government implemented this policy, because there will be example for other people, other human in the world. If they make corruption, they will die, ladies and gentlemen. But in reality, it's not like that. Even though they know that there are people that die because of this corruption, they still do the corruption. Why? Because they are guilty, ladies and gentlemen. I will continue my argument. So you have to know, I will make comparison between the China, ladies and gentlemen. China implemented this policy in 2013, but the word is the corruption case in China is still increased, ladies and gentlemen. As cited in CNNindonesia.com, the corruption in China is increased by 90% in 2019 from the previous month, just about 18,585 cases, ladies and gentlemen. We can see here, even though this policy is implemented in those countries, and of course, if
PI,
this
please.
policy is implemented in our country, no, thank you, young lady. I will continue my argument, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to know, even though this policy is implemented in our country, they will not make a change, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'd like to talk about another solution that more effective than this death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. Denmark is the first rank of the country with the lowest corruption case in the world, ladies and gentlemen. And you have to know, the government team, the Denmark is not implement this death penalty to the corruptor, ladies and gentlemen. But the Denmark implement another solution. Document and the eradication of the corruption in Denmark show that this country has an ombudsman in the institution since 1955. It's an institution that includes transparency, accountability, and efficiency, ladies and gentlemen. And this policy is success to prevent the corruption in the Denmark, ladies and gentlemen. And we from the opposition team totally agree. If this solution is implemented in our country, then we implement the death penalty. Because of what? Because even there is the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. The cases of the corruption is still increased in those countries, as I have mentioned before about the China and also in Indonesia. Because of that, ladies and gentlemen, I, as a deputy leader of opposition, totally disagree with our motion today that says this House believes that corruption can be abolished by the death penalty. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Mr. Patrick Demung, Deputy Leader of Opposition Team, and the time spent for that was 7 minutes and 15 seconds. We would like to give the chance for the government whip. This is your chance for rebutting the arguments presented by Deputy Leader of Opposition, as well as to provide the summary of your case. Time is yours, Ms. Michelle Pantaleon.
Okay, well, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the honorable adjudicators, timekeeper, moderator, and our blood friends from the opposition team. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our motion today is this House believes that the corruption can be abolished by death penalty. And ladies and gentlemen, we from the government team totally agree with this motion. From this motion, we have 2 points of argument. The first point is corruption cases can be eliminated by implementing the death penalty. And the second is the losses generated by corruption are very large, resulting in people's misery. But before I start to explain my argument, I would like to give some rebuttal and responses to what the opposition team said before. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like the opposition team didn't get our point. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the leader of opposition said before that there's an error in our prime minister. But so it seems like they didn't get our point. Because, ladies and gentlemen, what we said in here, that Indonesia is already set the rules, but they haven't implemented. That is why there's still a crime cases of corruption in Indonesia.
Yoi, please.
No, thank you. And also, ladies and gentlemen, they keep talking about comparing the Indonesia and the other country. But ladies and gentlemen, you cannot compare Indonesia with the other country because Indonesia and the other country is totally different. No, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like the opposition is not focused. Please be focused, handsome point.
Yoi, please.
Okay, so I'll continue. No, thank you. In the first point, we'll focus on the main topic of the motion itself, which means the corruption. And now we must see in the real situation that so many corruption cases in Indonesia.
Please.
Yes, please.
In conclusion, the corruption cases in Indonesia, it increased through the boundaries. And the fact is there is a regulation to prevent this, but the reason is nothing.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in here, that is why we must implement this policy, so we can see the changes that happen by the implementation of this death penalty policies itself, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I'll continue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, usually the corruption take the money not in a small amount, but in a big amount. And there's a law, the death penalty for corruption, no, thank you, has been regulated in the law Article 2, number 31 of 1999. But according to Compass.com, that updated on 24 January 2022, even though there are law about it, they still don't implement this law. So, ladies and gentlemen, we must see the connection between these two data that we said before. The corruption
please.
No, thank you. Why? Because the death penalty is not implemented yet. So the corruptor will think like, oh my gosh, it is over to do the corruption itself because we're just imprisoned and there are no rules that we can die for this corruption.
Corruption, please.
Yes, please.
In fact, that this policy have been appeared in Indonesia, and the facts that given by my deputy leader of opposition, we personally think that it convinces you that Indonesia have existed a policy to prevent this problem, which is corruption by death penalty, and the fact is nothing happened at all. Even the cases increase per year, even not per year, even per month.
Okay, so I'll continue. I'm so sorry, I'll answer the PI. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the opposition team keep asking about the same question again and again. And so we must make clear that why the corruption cases keep increasing in Indonesia. It is because this death penalty policies is not implemented yet. Okay, so I'll continue, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the reason that the corruption cases keep increasing, it is because the death penalty is not implemented yet. And also, ladies and gentlemen, no thank you, according to CNN Indonesia that updated on 19 August 2022, the corruptor bribed a minister and police to be released from prison. So it means, ladies and gentlemen, if the death penalties doesn't implement it yet in Indonesia, the corruption can be happen again. Yes, please.
So you can send it there. If this policy is implemented in Indonesia, it can be effective, ladies and gentlemen. Then why Denmark is the first of the lower corruption cases in the world doesn't implement this policy?
Okay, so actually, I already said before that you keep asking the same question. It means that you didn't get our point. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we already said again and again that because of this rule is not implemented yet in Indonesia, that is why the corruption cases keep increasing. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if the another side of the house will state that we should not implement these death penalty policies, it means, ladies and gentlemen, the corruption will happen again from the same person. Is that how Indonesia treats the criminal? No wonder our country is a developed country. The community will disappoint it. The criminal that causes a big loss for the country and can live happily with the money they steal from the community. That is why we must implement this death penalty itself. There are even a corruptor that created their own community to corrupt in Indonesia. Even from the
please.
Yes, please.
Okay, maybe the government whip fails to convince us that actually in Indonesia have already implemented a regulation to give a punishment as a death penalty for the corruptors, like as started from the regulation number 20 of 21, ladies and gentlemen. So could you please tell us your opinion about this?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, So ladies and gentlemen, my answer is the same because they haven't implemented it. So we cannot see the changes. That is why we have to implement this rule in Indonesia. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the death penalty is a repressive and persuasive measures in corruption cases that consider that criminal sanction can act as a tool to break the path of corruption, provide recovery, provide a deterrent effect, and at the same time as education so that the crimes are not repeated the corruption itself. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is why we totally agree with this motion that said this House believes that corruption can be abolished by the death penalty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, even in the last year pandemic that people are suffering because of the economic growth is decreased, can you imagine what happened if there are also a corruption that happened? The economic growth will decrease, the community will suffer, the country will suffer, and boom, that's it. Our country is destroyed. These corruptors are killing the community, and the government still don't give it that penalty. It means the government saves one person while the 1,000 person is dying out there. The government job is to help the community, not kill the community. So how can another side of the House state that we should not implement these rules? With the death penalty, we can save a lot of people out there. Based on the data that we said before, that these rules haven't implemented until now, no wonder Indonesia is a developing country. No wonder Indonesia's most problem is poverty. Even the community are disappointed with their own government. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we must change the opinion from the public itself, that we must implement this death penalty itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because why? First, the corruption cases can be eliminated by implementing the death penalty. And the second is, the losses generated by corruption are very large, resulting in the people's misery. So, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot save one person while the other is dying out there. Okay, so that is all my argument. Thank you.
So thank you very much. That was Ms. Michelle Pantaleon as the government whip. And now it's the opposition team turn. Oh, sorry. The time spent for the government whip was 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Now the opportunity for the opposition team. Mr. Marco Herrera as the opposition whip. This is your turn to review the case presented by the government and also to give the summary of your position. Time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a country titled democratic, what we have to embody is a better system that is transparency, accountable, and also others that not included in that penalty because it's against humanity. But before moving to my argument, but before that, very good afternoon all participants that attend in here, especially our beloved partner from the side of government. Ladies and gentlemen, before moving to my argument, I'd like to criticize the main point coming from the side of government. The third speaker, I would like to starting from the third speaker. In conclusion, what the third speaker contended us is about the negative impact come from this corruption. And the facts given by the first speaker is that in corruption cases in Indonesia increase, and even though this policy to prevent this corruption act, which is death penalty, have been appeared. So what three of them stated is contradictory at all, and we cannot believe in what they stated, ladies and gentlemen. And why we compare between other countries while the parameter is in Indonesia? Because
PI,
we have to
please.
see that. Yes, please. The second speaker. Okay, the first speaker. Second speaker. Oh, first speaker.
Okay, so thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, the government team keep saying about the death penalty can against the humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have to consider is in here is about not only about the corruptor itself, but about the community all around the country itself. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you think about it?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's see from the motion. Side of government have failed to understand the motion, even there from the side of government. Because what we talk today, it's about the crime, the acts in here is corruption, and the one who made this corruption acts is the corruptor. That is why we talk about corruptor, and she talks about in all common, ladies and gentlemen. And why? So continue to my elaborations. Why we compare these
PI,
problems
please.
between other countries? No chat, please. Between other countries, because we have to see that in other countries where they doesn't implement this policy, they're having a better life, peaceful harmony, even without the crime acts in here. I'd like to state it is corruption acts, ladies and gentlemen. Especially in Denmark, that apply another policy to prevent this this corruption acts, ladies and gentlemen. And what about China? China is more restricted country and developed countries than Indonesia. But China also get the problems with in corruption, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why we have to see, even though in China cannot have a better result in apply this policy in also in Indonesia. So what we have to concern
PI,
with
please.
is that, yes, please.
Okay, the argument from the leader of opposition till the opposition whip, they kept comparing Indonesia with the other country. It means they only focus on the other country, while in this case, we're talking about Indonesia. So what do you think about that?
Again and again, she asking me about the same questions like what the first speaker is. Why we compare these problems between other countries, other developed countries especially, because these problems also appear in other countries, which is developed country, ladies and gentlemen. We have to see how disastrous effect come from this corruption effect, and if it's having a bad results in other countries, especially in China, and also in Indonesia, it crystal clear show that this policy cannot run well. So moving to my argument, that how bad this corruption is in the 20th century, as the global economy expanded significantly during the 20th century. Yes, please.
POI, please.
Please.
Okay, so the third speaker of the opposition team that say the death penalty is against the humanity. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to know we live in a country of laws, where all of behavior is governed by law. There is a law of the...
I got your point.
Yes.
In fact, yes, it's against humanity, and Indonesia is a country that's stated that which is in law, ladies and gentlemen. But the problem in here that even though this policy implement and it exists in Indonesia, the corruption cases in Indonesia still increase, like what the first speaker contended, and it completely shows there's a contradict between the three of them, ladies and gentlemen. Now moving back to my argument, how bad is corruption? Corruption in the 20th century, as the global economy expanded significantly during the 20th century, the level of corruption also increased, ladies and gentlemen. And
PI,
it
please.
is difficult to estimate, it is difficult to estimate the magnitude and level of corruption globally, because this is activity
PI, please.
carried out in secret. Yes, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, there is no action without the performer. So which means, ladies and gentlemen, when we take away lives of this corruptor itself, which means we take the existence of the corruption.
Ladies and gentlemen, they state that Indonesia doesn't put this policy strictly. But Heru Hidayat in 2021, a corruptor in Indonesia, got that penalty. He is died. Isn't it show that this policy are implemented, but the corruption cases in Indonesia still increase, ladies and gentlemen. So how can we prevent this problem, especially in a democratic country, Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen? So the way for us to embody a peaceful and harmony life without any corruption act is to create institutions that more transparent, ladies and gentlemen. Government should work more transparent, and the fact is, government in Indonesia doesn't work transparent. They like to work in secrets, because if it is transparent, the government will act without any control. They will not doing any corruption, and moreover lead our country into a better, into a developed country. I'd like to say. And in 2020, ladies and gentlemen, the death penalty is already exists in the 18th century before Christ in Babylonia, that made by King Henry. This punishment is given to 25 kinds of crime, include corruption. And in 20th century, there are almost all countries in the world that implement this policy, ladies and gentlemen, especially Indonesia. And I'd like to stress again and again that even though Indonesia has implemented this policy existed, the corruption exists in Indonesia doesn't even decrease, and they give evidence that this corruption acts in Indonesia and it increased. So it crystal clear shows side of government have act supportive to us, ladies and gentlemen. And how about another countries like Denmark that doesn't apply this policy? Documents and eradications of corruption in Denmark show that this country has an ombudsman institutions since 1995. It is an institutions that include transparency, accountability, and efficiency, and that is the thing that Denmark doesn't appear in Indonesia. So how can Indonesia prevent this problem? Is doing what Denmark do. Ladies and gentlemen, because of that reason and fact, we from the side of opposition extremely disagree to our motion today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Marco Herrera as the opposition whip. The time span was 7 minutes and 19 seconds. And now it's the chance for both teams to prepare reply speech. And as usual, the opposition team will get the first chance for providing the reply speech. This is your chance to try to convince the opposing team as well as the judges and the audience on why we should support your claim. In opposing the motion, time is yours.
To reduce the cases of corruption, ladies and gentlemen, the death penalty is not the solution. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mr. the reply speaker of the opposition team. Totally disagree with our motion today that says this House believes that corruption can be abolished by the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. The leader of opposition has contended before that Indonesia have already implemented this regulation, ladies and gentlemen, and to give the death penalty or punishment for the people who do the corruption. But in the reality, the cases of the corruption is still increased, ladies and gentlemen. In 2021, the Heru Hidayah, a corruptor in Indonesia, got the death penalty. But strangely, the corruption in Indonesia is not decreased, but it increased. As cited in dataindonesia.id, there are 579 cases of corruption in Indonesia in 2023. It increased by 8.63% than previous year, which are 533 cases, ladies and gentlemen. And I like to tell you how bad is the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. Corruption in the 20th centuries, as the global economy expanded significantly during the 20th century, the level of corruption also increased, ladies and gentlemen. It is difficult to estimate the magnitude and also the level of corruption globally because this activity is carried out in secret. The World Bank estimates the international bribes exceed about 1.5 trillion US dollar, as or 2% of the GDP in the world, and 10 times more than total global aid, ladies and gentlemen. And then, how about the history of the death penalty in our world? The death penalty is already exist in the 18th centuries before the Christ, ladies and gentlemen. This policy is implemented in Babylonia and made by the King Henry, and this punishment is given to 25 kinds of the harm of the crime, ladies and gentlemen, include the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. And in 20th century, the corruption are almost all countries in Indonesia implement this policy to make a death penalty to the corruptor, ladies and gentlemen. But that is useless. Then the death penalty is not effective to prevent the corruption. Because of what, ladies and gentlemen? Because this death penalty just make the one people, but not, for example, for the other people in the world. In the China implement this policy in 2013. But the word here is the corruption case in China is still increased, ladies and gentlemen. As cited in CNNindonesia.com, the corruption in China is increased by 90% in 2019 from the previous years, or about 18,585 cases, ladies and gentlemen. This proves if this policy is implemented in our country, ladies and gentlemen, that is useless. There is useless, ladies and gentlemen, because this policy can prevent the problem of the corruption. And then how about another solution, ladies and gentlemen? Denmark is the first rank of the lowest corruption case in the world, ladies and gentlemen. And this country is not implement this policy, ladies and gentlemen. So we have to know that in Denmark, the document of the eradication of the corruption in Denmark shows that this country has an ombudsman as institution in 1955. It's an institution that includes transparency, then accountability, and also efficiency. And this is more effective than the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. Then I'd like to report some points from the government team. So the government team saw there is no regulation of the death penalty in Indonesia. But my leader of opposition has said the data, ladies and gentlemen, the regulation number 20 of 2001, ladies and gentlemen, concerning about the corruption cases will got the death penalty. And then they also talk about there is increase of death penalty. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is an increase of death penalty because there is increase of the corruption, ladies and gentlemen, because of what? Even though the Indonesia is implementing this policy, ladies and gentlemen, the corruption cases in Indonesia is still increased. And then they also talk about there is slow economic growth, and if this corruption is still exists, it will make it worse. But we have to know, even though this policy is implemented in our country, they will not prevent the corruption in our country. Because of that, we totally disagree.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick Demung, for the reply speech for the opposition team, and the time spent for that was 4 minutes and 21 seconds. We would like to move forward to the reply speaker from the government side of the House. It's your chance to try to convince the opposing team, the judges, and the audience on why we should support you in defending your motion. Time is yours, Ms. Nataraga.
There is no action without performer, take away lives of character, which means that we take the existence of corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, in here, our motion today is about this House believe that corruption can be abolished by death penalty, and we from the government team totally agree about this motion. But first things first, we have to take from the opposition side. Ladies and gentlemen, they also keep saying about data, which means, ladies and gentlemen, in here, we need the real example in the real situation in our daily life, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, the opposition team don't get our point about the law in Indonesia, that, ladies and gentlemen, why we should implement it about the death penalty, because, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we already know that there's an implemented of the death penalty in the undang-undang, but there's no the real implementation of it in our daily life. The implementation of it is not in the right way, ladies and gentlemen. So in here, we from the government strongly agree about this motion. And ladies and gentlemen, what we have to consider is about there is no action without the performer, which means that, ladies and gentlemen, we already know about the corruptor of these corruption cases, which means that we have to do this death penalty because, ladies and gentlemen, the basic of our point is about corruption is being performed by the corruptor. So that when there is the existence of corruptor, which means also there is the existence of the corruption cases. And ladies and gentlemen, if we do the death penalty for the corruption, of course there is no performer of the corruption. So that is totally can abolish the corruption. The corruption cases is, ladies and gentlemen, that's the basic of our argument. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to consider again and again about our arguments that the first is about corruption cases can be eliminated by implementing the death penalty. And the second is about the losses generated by corruption are very large, resulting in the people's misery, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the first point, that corruption cases can be eliminated by implementing the death penalty. We have to consider again and again about the impact of the corruption itself, ladies and gentlemen, in our daily life. What we talk about the corruption is about an activity that have the purpose to abuse of the country's money. Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine when a corruptor do this for the country's money? How can you imagine about the impact for the community, ladies and gentlemen? They can get an activity that have the purpose to abuse or the use of the country's money, ladies and gentlemen, which means it gives the many negative impact for the community itself. Because why, ladies and gentlemen, they get the money from the countries, ladies and gentlemen. How can the country can progress very well if their money is being corruption itself, ladies and gentlemen? And also, we talk about disappearance of the corruption itself, ladies and gentlemen, which means in here we are emphasized again and again that the corruption can be abolished by the death penalty, because when the death penalty itself, it can help to ladies and gentlemen, it can help to decrease the existence of the corruptor is, ladies and gentlemen. So about the second point, ladies and gentlemen, the losses generated by corruption are very large, resulting in people's misery. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to consider again and again about the impact of the corruption that being by the corruptor. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have to see is about how can the community take the impact being affected of it. Ladies and gentlemen, this House believes that the corruption can be abolished by death penalty, and we from the government totally agree about this motion because because it can help to eliminate it by implementing the death penalty itself. So that, ladies and gentlemen, what we have to see is about the Indonesia, we have to know about the amount of the corruption cases in Indonesia. But ladies and gentlemen, the point is about the implemented of the penalty, death penalty is not in the right way. So in here, we have to take the implementation of it very well in the right way, ladies and gentlemen, so that it can help to eliminate the implementing the death penalty itself. So that is all my argument. Thank you.
Yeah, wow. So thank you very much, Ms. Natal Raga, as the reply speaker from the government team. And the time spent was 4 minutes and 8 seconds. So, by that, it's marking the end of the debate also. And we would like to thank both teams so much for the very, very impressive performances this afternoon. Give big round of applause again, yeah, for them, yeah? Very, very impressive. And also on behalf of the judges as well, I just would like to take this opportunity also to thank you, besides for the impressive performances, but also for your inspiring speeches and also the motivation that you give, yeah, not just for the students, but also for other teachers and other schools for the future, and also for setting up standards, maybe standards, I would say standards, and also examples for the future students who are going for the future debate competition. With that, thank you so much, and I would like to invite you to return to your benches with your teachers. Yeah? And please shake hands with your opposing team. Thank you once again, and in the meantime, we will give time for the judges. Okay, so we would like to ask judges, how long do we need for the last scoring? 5 minutes enough? 5 minutes, yeah? 10 minutes, okay, maybe about 5 to 10 minutes, yeah? And then we will get the final results for the final rounds of the competition. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the results is already here. I haven't even read it. I just got it from the judges, yeah? So I would also be surprised, or maybe not so surprised, yeah, by the results. All right, so okay, so before we read the score, we would like to give the chance first for the judges, yeah, to give a little overview probably on the performances before, just as a feedback for all of us, yeah. Mr. Alphonse?
Saya berdiri saja. All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are so tired. Okay, after the fight for more than 2 years, 2 days, now we can know, we can get the result of the debate competition. But before that, I would like to say that I give my appreciation, deep appreciation to all English teachers and all the participants, my students. The appreciation given because of your preparation before the competition time, and I do believe that you have worked hard. You have spent a lot of time. You have spent a lot of energy and material for the sake of the success of this English competition. So once again, I humbly say congratulations. Yeah, actually, even though from the beginning until now, yeah, especially for the final round, our blood ran faster than before. It's more high tension, yeah. But from the beginning, we can see that we can enjoy the process run well, even though there are some teams didn't care about mistake, or sometimes they didn't care about the rules and broke the rules. But all teams have shown their performance confidently. Well done, ya. Apapun juga, tapi kita lihat mereka tampil dengan penuh percaya diri, very confidently. So, yeah, I can conclude that this year, the process of this year is better than last year. So we hope that last year is better than this year. I think we all agree about that. So, not on behalf of the judges, but I would like to say congratulations for 3-4 teams as the winner. It is based on the joint decision by the committee. We just choose 4 teams who got the highest score as the winner. But I think we all as the winner, because we have worked hard. Itu kerja sangat capek dari persiapan, as I told before that. The aim of this, I think we all have known, not only to improve the student speaking, listening, but I think the judge have to judge and give score objectively to get the 3 or 4 team with a high score. So once again, congratulations, well done, and God bless all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I have to say sorry that my English is not too good since I missing the zone of speaking English too long since I left the zone of teaching English in the classroom. My little comment about the grand final, I feel that I like to force to enter in the hell zone because it forces me to pay full of attention, full of concentration. But the things that make me feel easy is that I saw that one group, they speak very well and supported by facts and data, but the other, they just play with opinion. I wait very seriously for them to give me facts, to give me data, but I didn't get it. So that is why I get something influence me to give the score. But I have to say thank you for all of the teachers, all of the students for your hard preparation. Good luck for all of you. See you in the next competition. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. And also the judges. As judges, we have 3 eyes, not 2 eyes. Do you believe or not? Yeah, if you believe or not, but we would like to say that judges has 3 eyes. Try to look for in detail about how the participants try to give the arguments. First of all, about your arguments, how the quality of your arguments. And also we try to see about the strength of the rhetoric the participants try to share to the audience and also to the judges. And also we also find the quality of the charisma of the speaker. Yeah? But overall, we try to see in details according to the rules from the committee. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share some suggestion for all of us here. We still find that most of the team try to read the text most of the time. We really hate this way of debate, yeah? But we appreciate some teams have performed well. They read the text, but not much of the time. But it's a way for them to show the data. But make sure that in a debate, we try to emphasize about our imagination, not only to perform your arguments, but also you understand the opposition or the government ideas. So when you know exactly what the other people or the other team says about the arguments and also the data, it's easily for you try to respond. What I find here for the grand final, please again we give applause for all 4 teams. Yeah, the best teams from the judges we think this afternoon for the final round. Yeah, overall for the schools, we need to learn a lot from Seminari. Yeah? This is the fact. Why the students, they have really best performance to debate. What I see from Seminari is they have a special English room. Yeah? So the students do not only wait from the teachers in the class, from what the teachers try to explain everything in class, but the students have their own time, chance to access the material, to read the material, to enjoy the learning. So I think we can create in other schools about this special English room. Yeah, for the English teachers and also the headmaster, I think it's a good idea for us to improve the students, because English, when we applied Merdeka Belajar, freedom to learn, I think give chance more to the students to access, to learn according to our decision, not only depend from the teachers. And in my last, I would like to say that we know exactly like Einstein, yeah, one of the scientists, say that imagination is more important than knowledge. So in debate, of course, we also pay attention to imagination. We hear what your other team tell something, and then you respond, and then you also tell. That's imagination first, and you add more about data, about statements, as knowledge. I think that's enough. Thank you very much. Give applause again for all of us. See you next time.
Thank you, judges. So once again, I'll just open this and read it alongside with you guys. So I will start reading from the one ranked number 1. That is SMA Swasta Seminari. Langsung pesta mereka. With the total point of 1,100. And on the second place, that's SMA Katolik Swasta Regina Pacis Bajawa. With the total point of 1,072. And on the third place, that's SMA Negeri 1 Bajawa. With a total point of 1,057. And the fourth place, SMA Negeri 1 Riung Barat, with a total point of 1,047. Yeah. Congratulations to everybody. Big congratulations to Seminari and also for all the competing teams, yeah. And with that, I would like to give back this power, this microphone, to the organizing committee for the next acara.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Rini. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, in this place, in this time, I cannot talk too much because our judges and even this afternoon can prove that yes, our English has improved too much in our senior high school, especially in its senior high school. So in this time, I just give thanks. The first, to our Almighty God that has give our best chance, best time, best moment for us to make a English competition in this place, especially in our in this school seminary. Yeah. And second, I humbly thanks to all judges, Mr. Alphonse, Mr. Eldel, and Mr. Jenny. Thanks very much. We cannot give too much, but for us, can give you a good appreciation for all of you. And then, Ms. Rini, thank you very much for your guidance to all of participants from the first until the end of this competition. Yes? Yes, okay. And the last, to my beloved IT team, thank you very much. Very, very thanks. Okay. And then for our teachers, your guidance to your students, very, yes, it's very, very high performance, very high performance for your students. And now, time is up for us to make a close ceremony this afternoon in the main room 2 hours. So, for me, thank you very much. Okay, God bless us now and forever. Terima kasih banyak.